Everything's crowded, there's more houses, there's less natural beauty.
People cannot get enough of our beautiful state.
Sure, we have a problem of over-tourism, but that's kind of a good problem to have if we're going to make positive change.
But can Colorado keep up?
With all the growth, there is a lot of pollution, a lot of ozone alerts.
Tonight we have a 360 in-depth look at Colorado's current quality of life.
Quality of life isn't experienced universally.
From climate impacts to mass transit infrastructure and a dwindling housing supply, we look at what's needed in our state to keep up with growth.
We need the state government actually investing in a resilient future.
And good evening to you, and thank you for watching Denver 7 News at 6. I'm Ann Trujillo.
I'm Shannon Ogden. Everybody wants a piece of Colorado right now. We see it in our state's growing population and in the booming tourism industry.
And tonight we have a 360 in-depth look at what this love affair is doing to the quality of life in Colorado.
Denver 7's Russell Haythorne kicks off our coverage with a look at what state leaders need to do to keep up.
Whether it's visitors just in town for a few days of vacation or someone moving to Colorado for the first time,
Everybody wants to be here.
our state gets no shortage of love.
My body runs better on high altitude.
Can we work outside? Can we have coffee outside? Can we do everything outside?
But are we loving it to death?
Humans historically always love places to death.
I-70 it's a nightmare, in my opinion.
Quality of life is tough. It's hard to achieve that for a lot of folks right now.
Let's go 360 on how Colorado is changing with experts who say it's a wonderful destination, but also warn of climate change inequities and other quality of life issues, those who moved here because they think it's so great, those visiting, and let's start with Sandy and Rich Gerber, who lived in Colorado for 40 years.
Quality of life, school systems for the kids. She spent 35 years with the city of Aurora.
But now, like so many of their friends, they recently left Colorado, moving to the Phoenix area for warmer winters and a lower cost of living.
I mean, we sold the house in 13 days and had a house down there. Yeah, it's a bargain. It was time to just change.
Then there are those like Patty De Rosario.
The people are nice, especially the ones who have lived here forever.
She and her military husband bounced around the world for years before settling back in Colorado about 5 years ago.
Oh my gosh, our house is appreciated, I think 50%. There's something for everyone. The only thing that we're missing is a beach. I don't think we'll ever move.
Dr. Lauren Gifford agrees there are so many things that make Colorado attractive.
There's a lot of smart people.
Yes.
There's a lot of smart women.
But Gifford, an expert in climate policy, says climate change and increasing population threaten quality of life in Colorado.
So like what we saw here in Louisville, where we had a mega urban wildfire where 1,000 homes were lost. It's mind-boggling, it's traumatic. There's incredible lasting trauma here. I would say that 1,000 homes burned is already the implosion.
She says there's no way to solve climate change, but one glaring missed opportunity is funding mass transit.
There's ways to adapt to climate change. There's ways to be resilient to climate change, but we're not solving it at this point.
On the recreation and tourism side of things,
Over-tourism is certainly a massive area for us to consider.
outdoor rec and tourism expert Lincoln Davey says it's no wonder so many are attracted to Colorado. He uses himself as an example.
I moved here in 2018 and I moved here from Montana. Oh boy, it's a pretty busy state for my outdoor recreational activities.
He calls Colorado the North American capital for outdoor rec and businesses with VF Corporation, Alterra, Vail Resorts, and others.
We have so much of the industry that is flourishing in this space. It's a no-brainer to come to a place like Colorado.
And he sees farming and ranching as the standard bearers in Colorado for conserving what we have.
If we're looking at a history lesson, if we're looking at a lesson on best practices, I think it's really useful for us to look at our farmers and ranchers. Sure, we have a problem of over-tourism, and that's kind of a good problem to have if we're going to make positive change.
Of course, it's not cheap to live and work in places where tourism thrives, like mountain towns, which has created another crisis.
I know from my experience ski patrolling in my 20s and early 30s, it's expensive, and the wages haven't kept up with the cost in local communities, and it's only gotten worse.
And that brings us to Lisa Reyes Mason.
These inequities, these crises are really happening in so many parts of the country.
Reyes Mason is a social work expert and as a Filipina American has lived all over the world herself and says quality of life is never experienced the same way by any two people.
The affordability crisis is really hard here in terms of housing, in terms of inflation that's happening.
And history contributes to those issues.
There's a history of redlining that goes back 100 years. Who has access to homes that are of higher value in greener neighborhoods? There's a racial gap.
Lifestyle.
For those like Rich and Sandy.
No, we miss it here a lot. A lot.
They left the state partially because of affordability, but could also see themselves returning as Colorado addresses quality of life issues.
One day when the market changes, we'll be back.
Russell Haythorne, Denver 7.
Let's take a closer look at the numbers tonight. And growth isn't going to slow anytime soon in our state. The census in 2020 shows Colorado's population 5.8 million people. Between 2010 and 2020, our state grew by 716,000. And it's not going to stop there. By 2030, experts expect our state's population to grow to 6.5 million people.
Now, to keep up with that population growth, our state will have to continue to add more housing. Currently, that same 2020 census data shows that Colorado's housing is more than 90% full. In Denver, 92% of all housing units are occupied. In Douglas and Jefferson counties, that number is 96%. Boulder County's housing units are 94% occupied, and in Weld County, 95% of available housing units are full. And here's a different take for you. A declining birth rate could actually help stabilize the population. We're already seeing its impacts across the Front Range. Just last week, Jeffco announced it would close 16 elementary schools because of declining enrollment. And in Denver, the school district created a declining enrollment advisory committee to make recommendations on school closures. All right, we want to hear your perspective now. How has Colorado's booming population impacted your life? What do you think needs to be done to keep up? Email us 360@denver7.com, or you can share your opinion by clicking on the 360 In-Depth tab at the top of the home screen on thedenverchannel.com.
Right now, family and friends of a 22-year-old Greeley woman killed as she was finishing up at work are gathering for a vigil in her honor. Denver 7's Colette Bordelon is there and live. And Colette, you spoke to the mother of Angie Vega. She says her daughter just wanted to make people smile.
She spread joy everywhere she went, including here at NOCO Nutrition, where she worked. Her mom says that she would write sweet messages on the customers' cups whenever they came in. And right now there are dozens of people gathered here outside of NOCO Nutrition with balloons, all to show support for the family. Now, Vega's mom says her daughter was born and raised in Greeley and loved working at this shop, which is owned by her aunt and uncle. Vega also loved to dance and cook and was an inspiration to her younger siblings. Today, when speaking with her mom, she still had a message of love and hope she wanted to share with everyone in Vega's memory.
Overall, life is a beautiful place. Try to encourage each other and not bring each other down. Live like there's no tomorrow. Love with all your heart. And forgive each other.
Such a strong mother. This vigil here at NOCO Nutrition is scheduled to run until 8 o'clock tonight. The public is invited. Police have arrested a suspect in this case, 24-year-old Marcos Vallejos. He's being held on first-degree murder and sexual assault charges. Live in Greeley, Colette Bordelon, Denver 7.
The former chief judge for Summit, Clear Creek, Eagle, and Lake counties has been suspended for 30 days without pay after police say he threatened his stepson with an AR-15 rifle. The Colorado Supreme Court released an opinion today publicly censuring Judge Mark Thompson. Thompson pleaded guilty to felony menacing for pointing a rifle at his 22-year-old stepson's chest. He still serves as a judge for the district, but works solely on non-criminal cases until his year-long probation ends.
Today, Governor Polis appointed a new district attorney for the San Luis Valley. Ann Kelly will be the new 12th Judicial District Attorney. Her appointment comes following multiple Denver 7 investigations into former DA Alonzo Payne and his questionable plea deals. Payne resigned in July after our reporting. The state attorney general also found that his office violated victims' rights. Now, previously, Kelly worked as deputy DA in the Boulder County District Attorney's Office. She has nearly 2 decades of experience practicing law.
Colorado's Secretary of State says democracy is on the line this November.
Many of these extremist candidates are running on platforms to roll back vote by mail, to roll back early voting.
But her challenger, come Election Day, says it's just an attempt to instill fear in voters.
My message has been professional experience, taking the rhetoric and partisanship out of the office.
Not much to see on the radar tonight. Instead, it's going to be a whole lot of hot weather this week.
Plus, the Broncos introduced their new president who brings years of experience to the front office.